So I got my flannel on. That's because I'm a working class Joe, and I've been digging in the lumber box all day with my hands for get some hog food. And so I know a little bit about hard work, and so I thought I'd lecture. This is YouTube. What we do is every fifth video has to be, a white American that's been working hard, explaining his success. I'm so successful that I'm sitting out here in a swamp by myself with my own camera that I bought with my own two hands. So it's me, it's the guy from Shark Tank, the other guy, Mark Cuban, but the bald guy too. He's got his lectures up. I've seen Jeff Bezos will tell you about how important it is to work hard. I've seen Warren Buffett talk about it. He's like, I think it was Warren, no, it wasn't him, it was Bloomberg was saying, he's like, one of the things I did to get ahead was I didn't use the restroom as much or something like that. Maybe it wasn't him, but they do a lot. They have their own weights, and they've all isolated the variable of their success, which is that they've just worked harder than other people. So I'd like to talk about that because it's an ethos that's pretty widespread, and it's not just rich people that believe it, but poor people and middle class people, they believe it too. And in a certain sense, kind of have to believe it, because if we didn't believe it, then the alternative would mean that everyone or most people are just toiling away in a system where they have no opportunity to really progress and make the lives which they've been working so hard to achieve actually manifest itself. But is it true? Well, in a certain sense, I think everybody knows that it is true a little bit, in that it's better to work harder and to put the time in and to study more if you want to get better grades, and to, you get better at your hobbies and your skills, and it's better to clean your room. This is all kind of widespread universal knowledge, which is legitimate, so it is true. End of story. Maybe not actually, though, because on the bigger picture, for the global economy, everybody kind of knows it's not true. Everybody knows that the reason that, people in Vietnam are so poor, or in Haiti, or in almost the entire world, let's say somebody working in a sweatshop in southern China, are they not working hard enough? Do they need to work for 85 hours instead of 78 hours at $1.25 an hour until they can finally rise to be the CEO of the company that they're working for? No, I don't think anybody really believes that. And so that's most of the people in the world. The better predictor is, where were you born? Were you born in Africa? Were you born in South America? Were you born in Asia? Well, that's most of the people in the world. And so if you were, kind of tough luck for you. So really that would just leave the West, which would just be North America and Europe, and I guess we'll throw in Australia, which is, granted, that's 3 of the 7 continents, and we can discount Antarctica. So there's a 1 in 2 chance that you could make it. But really it's only 1 of the 7 or 8 billion people on Earth. So you got actually a 1 in 7 or 8 chance of being able to make it. But even within those localities, where you were born is much better predictor than how hard you work. So if you could know one thing, is this person a really hard worker, or were they born in West Virginia? Which one would you want to know? If they were born in West Virginia, doesn't really matter that they're a hard worker, because there's tons of hard workers in West Virginia. They work really hard not to die of black lung after working all day for 40 years in the coal mines, making very little money, and it's one of the poorest states in the country. So, and the same with different areas of Europe. If you're born into poor rural areas, you're still mostly not going to make it. There are exceptions to the rule, and what the system does is it pulls these people out and it gives them 60-minute specials, and we do docuseries and Netflix movies about them, and then the poor people watch that, and as they're coughing away and slowly dying, toiling in the fields of their laborious work, which they never climb past the rung that they started off when they graduated high school, they say, maybe my kids will do better. And then the system continues itself. It's not really, it's not going to work next generation. But to a small number of people, the people that were born in the right countries, at the right times, in the right places, to the right families, in the right circumstances, working hard is definitely a predictor. I wouldn't say it's the main predictor. I would say a better predictor, even still, let's say you have 2 people that were born to upper middle class families in Silicon Valley that are able to go to college. What's going to be a better predictor of their financial success and their place within the high-tech economy, or within the socioeconomic system? Is it going to be working hard, or is it going to be who's more willing to lend themselves to the system and continue it in perpetuity, i.e. are more willing to look past the inequalities within the system, or more willing to work for a corporation which might be destroying the environment and making the world uninhabitable in other parts of the world during that time, but certainly for future generations, for everybody. If those two people, if one of them doesn't accept those conditions or doesn't want to like lend themselves to that, they're not going to be an executive. And if they are an executive, they'll be thrown out the minute that they start to operate in a way which threatens current profits for future stability or for long-term utility of people that aren't shareholders of that company. And I think everybody, is what I'm saying, is it controversial? I think people more or less understand this. And so really for a small number of lucky people who are willing to accommodate themselves to a system which is unstable and in the long term and really requires a type of psychopathy, if we're going to be honest about it, in order to reach the top of, for those people, working hard, you know, might determine who becomes the executive and who's just a mid-level manager. But yeah, like during the pandemic, I don't have the numbers because there ain't no internet out here because I'm in the middle of nowhere, but I think like $1 trillion got increased in wealth in the first few months for like the top 50 billionaires or whatever it was. Does anybody think they were working for that wealth? They weren't the essential workers. The essential workers were out there working for minimum wage or slightly more, doing work that was essential. That's why we gave them the name, because without them, the economy would shut down. And these people that were sitting on their butts on Zoom calls for a few hours a day, raking in billions and billions of dollars to their net wealth, they wouldn't have got that money without the essential workers, because their income is tied to the labor of others at the bottom of the system, and the continued labor of those people and the assurance that they're not going to rise up in order to create a more equitable economy. It's continued by the belief that hard work will pay off in the end. But a lot of people don't even really believe it, but they still believe it enough, and we're still disorganized enough that nothing fundamental has really changed to alter the system yet. But that's going to change after this video. So.